Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Anime Night in the Dojo. Today's featured show, Jujutsu Kaisen, Season 3.
I have Jujutsu Kaisen, Season 3, episode... I don't even know where we're at. 10. Yes, 10. Everything's a different number for us right now. Welcome back to the dojo. I'm Ryu. That's Age.
All the recordings are a freaking mess right now.
Yeah, we're just toast. But it is what it is. But we're back, and, Yuji did a thing last week. It was impressive. He won his own trial, technically, and, well, we got to talk about Higuruma and how ridiculous of a prodigy he is. Like 12 days or whatever it was.
I think it's 11 days, they said.
Yeah, so that was impressive. It'll be interesting to see if they do more with his character. I know when they first showed him off and stuff like that, I know the fandom and like the internet was like, oh man, we have a replacement for Nanami as the daddy character, and I was like, yeah, okay, I guess. So, once again, Nanami's only been dead for like 2 weeks, so
yeah,
grieving period and all. You guys are freaking monsters. 2 weeks in universe, obviously different for out of universe, and waiting for it was over here, but still, you guys are monsters. How dare you? Can't believe you've done this. Got to pull the whole nostalgia critic thing and hold up, like when he criticized Mako that one time, and then the Avatar fandom just like eviscerated him, and ever since then, every time he mentions Mako, he just kind of like holds it up, and they like edit it in like the little sun effect. He's God. But either way, I don't know. Fushiguro, Reggie. I'm interested to see if Reggie is covered in receipts. We talked about that last time a little bit because we didn't talk about the time before when we were last time we saw him. The episode title is very original. Tokyo Number 1 Colony, Part 4. Spoiler alert. Next time is Part 5. Another spoiler alert. The final episode of this season is not Part 6. I was really bummed out by that. I had to know.
I kind of figured that the finale episode would be them starting some other story arc.
Right. So, either way, we figured that this had at most 2 more episodes here anyway. I had to know, so I looked at the episode titles, or at the list on Crunchyroll. Also, Java, I don't care about your update. I really, how many times I have to tell you no, not updating Java. Every time I cancel, it just keeps coming back a couple of days later. Like, hey man, are you sure? It's like, yeah, I'm sure. If I didn't still play Minecraft, I wouldn't have Java at all. But that is what it is. But either way, let's about that. That's where I'm at. That's how today's been going for me. My brain is all over the wall. But let's push some buttons and get going here. So people on Patreon will see you on the other side of the edit for the timer action, and people on YouTube Beyond will see you on the other side for the discussion and review. And check out the timer stuff. It's over on Patreon. And if you're on Patreon, go check out the YouTube stuff if you want to see the discussions. So all the links are down there in the description and whatnot. So watch whatever you feel like. And as always, we appreciate your time. So here goes something. Well, alrighty then, there you guys have it. This episode was absolutely ridiculous across the board, but also pretty damn great. I stand corrected from the reaction. I went back to this frame specifically. I made reference to a couple WWE moves that could have potentially been used during this. Still a WWE move. This was not Cena's finisher in the AA. This was 100% the F5. He went full Brock Lesnar on him. He spun him. He didn't just pick him up and toss him like this. He literally spins his body. So that is the spinning back body drop, also known as the F5 if you're Brock Lesnar finisher. Also, hell of a career. He retired at WrestleMania and pissed off a lot of people in the company. So bravo. I applaud him. He saw what was coming and got out. You got to give a guy props for not being fed to stupid retirement tour. If that's what happened. I'm kind of hoping he just kind of like walked out and spite retired in the middle of WrestleMania. That would have been awesome. If that's how it went down, that's going to be something to talk about if that's confirmed. But either way, we had that. We had the classic Rikishi ass to the face, except it was Fushiguro's elephant Shikigami, which, I mean, definitely bigger than Rikishi, but not that much bigger. I mean, Rikishi was a big guy, and If you don't know who Rikishi is, just look him up. It's a good time, especially if you're into very large ass. So,
Yeah, that was like one of the only points in my life where I was ever actually like kind of into wrestling was back when it was still freaking WWF and Rikishi was around then.
right. So, either way, this whole sequence was interesting. We did call it on the fact that these are receipts, so that was cool. That one frame that I went back to from a couple episodes ago when I was like, hold on, there's writing on these things. You know what I mean? Just kind of threw that out there last week. Like, hold on, when we get back to Reggie, what if those are receipts? And, well, that's what they are, and it's one hell of an interesting technique. I'll tell you guys that much. We don't really know if they're like legit receipts, but based on the fact that he said, like, the thing that he burned, that was like the vacation receipt thing that like gave him like 3 days off basically and refreshed him. I assume that's they have to be real, even if he didn't, even if they're not his. You know what I mean? So
the way his technique works, as he described it, is essentially just he needs to destroy some form of contractual obligation, and then he benefits from whatever the contract is.
Right. So in the case of the thing that, it was a 3-day, 2-night stay at a spa with a massage or whatever, so he got the effects of that if he had just done that. You know what I mean? So like I said during the episode, it's like, so he could have like, I don't know, a receipt for like any possible injury he could sustain and just be like, yeah, no, I just got out of, the best surgeon, and then had like 6 months of rehab and now I'm back to full. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. So it'd be kind of interesting to see like how far he could actually push it, or how far he will push it in this fight now that, as we saw at the end of the episode, Fushiguro was able to unleash his domain. So Reggie did underestimate him at the end of the day, even if he is a resurrected sorcerer, as was pointed out. Yeah,
I think that's one of the big things that like people kind of forget and underestimate about Reggie himself. Like, I think Fushiguro even kind of underestimates that on him. It's the fact that once again he is one of Kenjaku's resurrected sorcerers, so he's not just one of the randos that's running around here who just only recently manifested their powers.
Right. He is tied to Kenjaku somehow and has lived in the past. Not necessarily the distant past. You know what I mean? It could be, but he is now using more modern stuff. But still, at the end of the day, he could have been from like the 1970s. You know what I mean? They had receipts then, obviously.
Yeah. Just plus, also once again, like we established, it doesn't necessarily have to be receipts. It's just some form of like physical contractual indicator of something that it was purchased. Yeah. Essentially.
Right.
And receipts are just like the easiest thing for him to carry around for that.
Right. Even if you're covering your body with it, but it is what it is. It's better to just kind of take it off your body than having to whatever else you would possibly do. You're going to freaking open your wallet every time or what?
I mean, you could go full freaking Crollo and just have his like infinite freaking notebook.
Yeah. But either way, it's a very interesting power. I like it. All the just like myriad of things that he was able to use. We'll talk about that a little bit more. Wanted to mention this. She did do the scorpion thing. In case anybody missed it. She did sting Fushiguro, but apparently it amounted to nothing outside of physical damage to his shoulder. So, not venomous, I guess.
And we'll have to see about that. Like, she kind of just disappears from the fight after this. He writes her off as potentially dropped out, but we have no clue what actually happens with her.
Right.
But she is... I mentioned the whole thing of freaking Aesop's Fables when we first introduced her as her having a scorpion aesthetic, and once again, that is the scorpion and the scorpion and the frog. It doesn't matter. Reasoning does not matter with the scorpion. The scorpion will just try to bring everyone down with it.
Yep. So either way, she did the thing. I'm glad she did the thing. But the rest of the sequence was absolutely absurd. Just every Shikigami, every little thing that just everything about this was great. And then you have, the classic John Wayne Western showdown with the classic, mind you, very classic duel, at high noon on Main Street in the Old West, like the whistling music. If you guys know what I'm talking about, they did it. That's what that was. That's classic Old West, 10 meters, pistols at noon, you know what I mean? Turn and fire. the classics. So they did the thing. But that was pretty interesting. With Takaba here, we talked about it a little bit at the end of the reaction, though, is he might be subconsciously using the reverse curse healing technique here. Because during this whole awkward fart scene, he went from that amount of blood pumping out of him to very little amount to he was good again. You know what I mean? He went from this having just tanked the explosion to the face, literally, claiming he was okay, and then slowly becoming more okay as the sequence went on. As you can see here, a little bit later, only a little bit of blood is coming out of his head. And
which we've already established that it is possible to just subconsciously keep healing yourself. Like, that's the whole thing with how Gojo even functions. His whole thing with, like, his maintaining infinity 24/7. He mentions, back when he's, like, very first developing the technique, that it puts a constant strain on his mind and body to the point where it literally is burning it out and destroying it over time. So he teaches himself to subconsciously keep a permanent low-level reverse curse technique going to keep healing faster than he's wearing his own body out.
Right. So in the case of Takaba here, he's probably doing that subconsciously, whether he knows what he is doing or not. Maybe he just thinks it's like his comedy hero, late 80s, early 90s, like slapstick gag Japanese comedy guy. I don't know if this is based on a real like early 90s comedian or anything like that, but that'd be something to have to fact check. But I'm sure there was probably some. I know Japan has a lot of those like slapstick comedy shows with like like the fans, like how he hits them with a paper fan, that kind of thing, or like they whack people on the ass, that kind of thing, or they like show up in people's houses and do something with their food. They have a lot of like weird stuff like that for their comedy shows and stuff like that.
Japan's comedy and entertainment has always been absurd. That's just part of like their sense of humor is absurdity.
Yeah, they just go to that like Aoi degree in the case of him, the Takaba degree, to the degree of getting somebody with a poop needle. 1,000 years of deaths. Kakashi would be proud. You know what I mean? So this was definitely a thing. Another WWE move, the classic missile drop kick. And he hit him as hard as a missile would hit him because he put that guy through the building. So, wouldn't want to get hit by that. Classic enhancer type. I'm kind of wondering why the curse symbol was coming up over his balls. But, it's probably part of the whole thing. You know what I mean?
Oh, that was their freaking wardrobe malfunction censoring.
Right, yeah.
As part of the joke is the fact that he is barely even covering himself to begin with. So when he starts stretching around, he has to get censored.
Yeah, right. So at the end of the day, this was handled pretty damn well. It'll be interesting to see if he does come back, like he is part of like the intro sequence with like Yuji, and like they're doing like running workout stuff, and the whole like Ron Simmons thing.
Yeah, he'll probably be a recurring character. Just maybe not necessarily like a main part of the team, just a recurring, like he just keeps showing up randomly to help people.
Right, just like mysterious stranger in Fallout, he just kind of shows up and does his absurd thing and then just kind of bails. But it's it was definitely a thing. Yeah, I appreciated everything about that sequence. It had something for everybody,
But yeah, his whole gimmick definitely seems to be that he doesn't have any sort of like significant technique or anything like that. At least not that he knows enough to use properly. It just seems that he just has a lot of curse energy, and he just instinctually uses it to enhance his own body.
Yep. So it'll be interesting to see if he comes back at any point. But then we kind of just got right into the Fushiguro and Reggie fight, which was just as absurd because, I mean, you got Kaiju-esque Shikigami floating around. You got Reggie just kind of using whatever he possibly has on his receipts, like that cinder block right there. He just came off of a surfboard. You know,
he turns had the freaking wall in the school into a rock climbing wall.
Yeah, like rock climbing wall things. Like he had it all. He dropped a piano, Wile E. Coyote style. You know what I mean? It was all over the place. Like just any one of these frames had an absurd amount of random stuff going on. You know what I mean? And it was great. They end up in the church where he explained his technique and that kind of thing. So that was cool. That's where he did his like refresh thing, which he probably has several of those kind of like what you'd probably call like a restful recharge. You know what I mean?
He probably has a variety of different kinds of healing contracts. Like he probably does have some form of like medical bill or something on him for like say fixing a broken arm or something.
Yeah, like
in addition to his restful stay shenanigans.
Like even if it was just, you know, like a receipt for like a couple hour nap at a random hotel, you know what I mean? That could still replenish some of his stamina, you know, something like that. You know what I mean? Or if he randomly was like being worn down or whatever and was hungry or something, he could just like burn like a burrito receipt or something. You know what I mean? And then he'd be good to go again. Or, you know, he could like shoot a monster or whatever, like an energy drink or something. You know what I mean? A receipt for like say morphine or fentanyl for pain, whatever it may be. The literal Swiss Army knife, and it's the amount of stuff you could do with him is almost limitless. You know what I mean? And that's what you kind of gotta appreciate about it. Maybe he could be like, do you guys hear about the lady who claims that she bought the sun and is now charging people for using sunlight? Maybe you could do that, even if it's a bullshit receipt. You know what I mean? So it just has to be a contract. It doesn't say it had to be a real contract, right?
Yeah, we don't know the full limitations on his thing. We just know that it has to be some form of proof of contract, like a bill or a receipt or the actual contract itself of something.
Yeah. So very interesting character. I think they nailed everything. They could have made it. I don't know if it's like this in source material, but it probably is. It could have been designed to be very boring, and he could have used a lot of just like, you know, military kind of thing, like tactical stuff. But he used absurd stuff like a surfboard and a random cinder block and the wall peg things for like climbing walls and stuff like that. He didn't really use anything that was like even the vehicle that he chose. It was a freaking Vespa. You know what I mean? Not like a cool motorcycle, not Leon Kennedy motorcycle. He went with a freaking Vespa.
Yeah, I imagine that the receipts, once again, don't have to necessarily be his. It's literally just anything that he can kind of get his hands on. So it's all just relatively mundane stuff. You're not gonna like, you know, stumble into receipts for like military grade weapons in Japan.
Right, yeah. Stuff you will derp into. Receipts for a smartphone. Receipts for some drones. You know what I mean? That was the most practical thing he did. You know what I mean? Besides the cinder block to break through the glass, obviously. Piano could have been anything else. You know, whatever. It just had to be heavy. But
one of his last attacks he does is he tries to freaking dome Fushiguro with a freaking stone bust.
Yeah. Like, it wasn't even like a baseball bat. It was just... He threw the trucks at him and tried to isekai him, and then he dropped a bunch of they were like house plants before he tried to like dome him with the bust right here. Like that's just like a random like statue bust.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Which he reveals here apparently, like that is the more advanced stage of his technique. Is he doesn't just summon things, but he can actually give them a command to do something before they disappear.
Right. So very interesting. I love the just like the direction and how everything was handled for this. Just like the shots and everything was great. The sound design, obviously, with just what they chose to do for that kind of thing was awesome too. So, and then we got left on the super serious, Fushiguro's domain, which is also very cool. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, one hell of an episode. Across the board, it had something for everybody almost. So I gotta appreciate it.
We still haven't really fully seen what Fushiguro's domain is capable of. He's only pulled it out that one other time. He basically won the fight immediately before he could really do much of anything with it.
Right. But well, once again, it bears mentioning that in case anybody forgot or doesn't understand, in the case of, let's say Fushiguro kills Reggie, it said Reggie had like 27 points or something. I forgot how many points he had. Fushiguro would only get 5 points for killing a sorcerer. He would not get however many points Reggie had. Okay.
Yeah, he had like something like 50 or 60. He had the most points out of the group, and like he said at the beginning, between the four of them, they had 100 points in total. And the other two members that we saw, I don't think we ever saw the freaking Scorpion Chick's points, but the other two members only had like 20 points each.
Yeah, they all had like a collective of over 100. But something interesting that he did mention was like, try to steal their points before you kill them, which I don't think you can steal points. It has to be transferred. So, like,
yeah,
that by steal, do you mean like coerce them into giving up their points before you kill them? So,
yeah, because that's the whole thing was that, yeah, if you prior to Yuji's rule, the only way you could get points would be killing a person, and you only would get the 5, regardless of what they got. Like, we see that literally in practice in this whole fight sequence here, because the one guy that Fushiguro kills had like 20-some points, and Fushiguro still only gets 5 points for killing him.
Right. As was pointed out by Kurogane, who just kind of showed up, mentioned the rule, and then confirmed the kill, which is actually a very good thing. You know what I mean? Because if the game master confirms the kill, then you can be sure that somebody's dead, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a kind of important thing to not gloss over, is like, I wonder if they'll go into that, if that's gone into at all, is like, they thought they won the fight, but Kurogane doesn't announce it, and then like the person like pops back up. You know what I mean? It's like, you thought you had me, but you didn't wait. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, we've already had a couple of characters who are capable of death-defying, like Gojo or Yuji.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see if, like, what happens necessarily when said characters die, but then manage to, like, bring themselves back.
Right. But either way, we did talk about it a little bit in the episode too, is Fushiguro mentions that he's not good at like creating barriers and stuff like that, and like feeling out, like eyeballing how much space he needs for the domain. Well, what helps with that? Being in a building that's about the size you need, and then you just fill the building, and that's it.
Yeah, apparently his spatial awareness is not that high, and that's a big part of why he's not managed to complete his domain yet. But yeah, the whole thing of why he ran in the first place was just trying to find a location like the gym here that is about the size that he can reasonably fill with his domain.
Yep. So I'll be interested to see the full description of his domain, what it's capable of, that kind of thing. And I'm just going to assume that Reggie doesn't have anything to counter that. You know what I mean? Massively. He did say, it's like acing the whole thing, but I don't think Reggie has a domain himself to, like counter it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we know the whole thing of like domains becoming more complex and harder to achieve over time. So like some of the older reincarnated sorcerers probably will probably have domains, but they'll be like weaker domains. But also most of them probably will have simple domain, because simple domain is a modern development to counteract domain expansion.
Right.
Like, it's something that's literally only been developed and started actively being put into practice over the course of the bit of the story that we've seen in the anime, which is like a year or so.
Indeed. So again, one hell of an episode across the board, just everything, even down to the first grader crayon drawing frame. I had to appreciate that one. So yeah, characters like this are always interesting. It'll be kind of a bummer if this is all we get from Reggie, but you know, he's an antagonist. He's a bad guy technically.
Yeah, he'll probably die in the next. He'll probably die in the next episode, but freaking, we'll still.
At least we still have to talk about, right?
We still need to see him like get serious,
right? So either way, big thumbs up. Really enjoyed this one. I think it was great across the board. Yeah, this was probably the best episode of the season, not the Maki one. Need to go back to that one. I saw a lot of people talking about it. It's like, once again, the Maki sequence was cool, but it was only 3 minutes of a very, very mediocre episode on top of that. So 3 minutes of very cool does not make an entire episode very good. I saw a lot of people giving Japan shit again. It's like, no, they're right. It's a very mediocre episode. Trust me. It was the
Maki episode.
Maki aura farming, very cool, absolutely. But it was only 10% of the episode. That doesn't save an episode and keep it at a 9.7 or whatever the West rated. You know what I mean? There
was some interesting fight shenanigans, but the Maki episode was still like massive disappointment.
Yeah, this was very good. As far as I'm concerned, this was the best episode of the season. Last episode was also very good too, but this one had, you know, everything. Pacing was great. It just the absurdity, stuff you'd expect from Jujutsu, some stuff you might not expect from Jujutsu. Comedy and madness. You know what I mean? It was a very full episode and it was fun. So as far as I'm concerned, even from the objective standpoint, this was the best episode of the season. So yeah.
That was also still probably one of the longest awkward lingering on a thing sequences I've seen that's not like Subaru rolling around on the floor.
Right.
The Subaru rolling around on the floor was bad. This still managed to, like, it was really pushing being too long, but it still didn't quite manage to hit too long.
Right. It hit that classic, that classic maxing out on the meter. And, you know, like even during the reaction, you guys could see me, I was like looking around like, it's still going, huh? All right, and then it went into the what is like the commercial break, quote unquote, where they spin the Jujutsu logo, which they haven't really done in a while, but I think they did that on purpose for that moment. But yeah, it wasn't too long. It was totally fine. They were really driving the absurd Japanese humor point home right there, because that's what the Japanese comedian would do, is they would take it to the umpteenth degree of awkward silence, and that's what it was doing, and that's why it's good.
Yeah, the whole thing was, once again, the Japanese humor is very heavily based on absurdity. But then also, Takaba is supposed to be a bad comedian.
Right. So, that's the point. In case anybody didn't really understand what was going on there. So, big thumbs up for me. And, yeah. You got anything else, Adrian?
No, just coughing up a lung.
Fair enough. I went from burning my ass off to freezing my ass off in a matter of like 3 days. It's fantastic. So either way, hopefully we're back, but you know, we'll get through this season at some point. So ladies and gentlemen, people of YouTube, beyond however you're watching, as always, we appreciate you stopping by and hanging out with us here in the dojo for more Anime Night in the Dojo. And this is Jujutsu Kaisen Season 3, Episode 10. We got 2 more to go. 1 continuing the parts and 1 breaking the parts and screwing over, you know, my head canon, but not really, because I just thought it would be funny. But you know, they went 5 parts. It's totally fine, especially if they're not going to be in the Tokyo colony at that point anyway. So everybody,
yeah, like Fushiguro mentioned here, freaking their goal here of making the rules already basically done. There isn't really much points left to be had, so them sticking around doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yep. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, people of YouTube, as always, we appreciate you. Have a good morning, evening, afternoon, whatever it is for you. Have a good one. See you next time.
Hey everyone, Victoria here. If you enjoyed the video, please consider pushing those like and subscribe buttons. Your support is greatly appreciated. Thanks again for your time, and we hope to see you again in the future.